Hi, and welcome to the Dear Old State Update, brought to you by Penn State Sports Night. I'm Owen Camrus alongside Bronwyn Leiber, here to bring you the latest updates on Nittany Lions athletics.
Our beat reporters have been out and about providing in-depth stories and the recaps of all your favorite games. We'll bring you a look into Penn State men's volleyball's attempt to clinch home advantage for the EIVA tournament, a preview of Penn State's upcoming Last Dollar Dog Night, and more right here on the Dear Old State Update.
Men's lacrosse finished up regular season play last Friday and will enter the Big Ten tournament as the number 3 seed. That means Penn State will host the first round at Happy Valley. Their opponent, well, it's a familiar foe that one player in particular is excited to see back. Let's go to a package from Sophia Miranda that takes a look at Penn State's final regular season games.
Penn State men's lacrosse is Big Ten tournament bound, with its first game set to be this Saturday at noon in Penzer Stadium for the tourney's quarterfinals. However, to achieve home field advantage, Penn State had to face two final regular season opponents, Johns Hopkins and Rutgers. On April 12, Matt Trainer led the Nittany Lions to a 10-4 win against the Blue Jays. The senior finished the game with not 1, 2, or 3, but 7 goals and 1 assist.
I think the only right answer is Coach Hoff. He's just done such a good job with us in the offensive end, building our confidence, teaching us, whether it's film sessions, or just having conversations with him about anything. He's been awesome.
Following the win, the Nittany Lions faced their last regular season opponent, the Scarlet Knights, last Friday in their celebration of Senior Day.
That means everything. I mean, those guys put in more work than anybody, and they're so invested in our program and our culture and our mission, and being able to see them get out there, make plays, make a difference, and see all their hard work pay off. I mean, that's what the whole point of this week is about, and that's what the whole rest of the year is about. It's not just one day that we celebrate our seniors. We're doing the rest of this ride for them.
The team was able to take the 12-4 win, including a goalie goal by Jack Frasian to end Penn State's regular season with a 9-3 record.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jack really played well today, and it was so nice because he struggled a little bit earlier in the season getting in his own rhythm, and I think in the last 3 games he just continues to keep getting better, and when that happens, I think our defense really responds around it.
Defeating them was very important and will have a direct impact on Penn State's future performance in the conference tournament.
They did, Rutgers was a team, certainly against Maryland, they got off to a great start, and that was a high point of emphasis coming into today, so I was glad that they were able to do what they did in the first set, and hopefully we can just gain some confidence from that.
Penn State will take on Johns Hopkins once again to fight for the chance to face the hard opponent, the Maryland Terrapins, in the semifinals of the tournament. The initial whistle is set to be blown this Saturday at noon, with the blue and white hoping to continue its regular season momentum. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Sophia Miranda. I'm now joined by Connor Patterson and Brian Forney. The Nittany Lions finished their regular season with a 9-3 overall record, closing it with a 12-4 win against Rutgers. Obviously, with the Big Ten tourney getting closer, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the team?
Well, I'll just start with the stars, obviously. I mean, you have Matt Trainer, who has 30 goals on the season, and I mean, looking at the matchup ahead, John Hopkins, just that last game that they just played recently, he had 7 goals alone out of the 10 in that. So for him to get going in this upcoming matchup will be huge. And then I want to touch on Jack Frasian as well. I mean, in Rutgers, he played a huge role, 13 saves. And, I mean, he did it all, even had a goal from the full field. So it was very impressive from him.
Yeah, I'll touch on the weaknesses that the Nittany Lions have had so far. I have to say it's got to be the face-off and the transition. I think just with the Ohio State and Maryland games, that was really exemplified. I mean, with Ohio State, it was Nittany Lions got off to a hot start, and then it was just face-off after face-off that they lost momentum going back to the Buckeyes, and that was what led Ohio State to a big win. And then for Maryland, they just jumped on top early, and then Nittany Lions just could not get their footing back.
Yeah, that's kind of how I went with Ohio State. I mean, they had, like you said, the weaknesses were the face-offs. They felt like they never had the ball on their side to even score points half the time. So that'll be huge going against. I mean, they could have a potential rematch in the future, but just even John Hopkins, they need to focus on them right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, one of the strengths, as you guys said, Matt Trainer, what a great performance he had throughout all the season, plus in 30 goals, a bunch of assists as well. So what a great player. But now moving on to obviously the national tourney, as you said, Matt Trainer, 30 goals, 14 assists against John Hopkins. We'll talk about it. They obviously faced them in the Big Ten tourney, 7 goals and 1 assist in a single game. So obviously going into the NCAA tournament, what are you guys' opponents that you guys are looking forward to? And also, what do you think Penn State will make it to the tournament?
Yeah, I'll start off with the Big Ten tournament. I think Michigan would be a pretty favorable opponent for the Nittany Lions to face, just because, we've seen the Nittany Lions go into Ann Arbor and take a win, and that was off of the losses to Maryland and Ohio State. So them regaining momentum, Nittany Lions have only gotten better ever since. So, for Big Tens, I'd say Michigan.
I think I'm looking forward to Ohio State. I mean, as far in the future, it'd be a championship match if it happened, and that there's already a rivalry running deep with that matchup there. But last time we played them, their goalie played the best game of the season, and Matt Trainer was not fully healthy. So I don't think they got us at full strength, and they played one of their best games of the season, if not the best for them. So a lot of stuff was going their way, and I think if we get a rematch, in the championship, could definitely come out our way.
Yeah, any names for the national tournament?
Yeah, I'd have to go with Cornell. We played them on the road, number 1, at the start of the year, and we were without Matt Trainer and I believe Luke Wallstrom. So without those two guys, and they were down 12-8 in the fourth quarter, they came back, stormed back, and won in overtime. I think Nittany Lions have only gotten better. They're going to just keep going with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. And to point out this important is the fact that they were down, like you said, 12-8, and just in the matter of 6 last minutes, they came back 12-12, tied up, took it to OT, and then obviously 1-1. Cornell, number 1 in the nation right now, huge win for them, and there could be a potential matchup in the future. They didn't have Trainer. If they get him back, I mean, they're only more powerful.
Exactly. And as we said, Penn State will face Johns Hopkins for the second time this season, Saturday at noon in Penzer Stadium. If the blue and white win, they will take on number 2, Maryland, in the semifinals. Now, let's head across campus where Penn State volleyball wrapped up its regular season this past weekend.
This Saturday, men's volleyball hosted Princeton for their final game of the regular season. Both players and fans were sporting pink in support of breast cancer awareness for women's volleyball head coach Katie Schumacher, who was in attendance today to blow the opening whistle. The starting lineups for both teams were consisted of rotational players who were shown lots of support from fans.
Because we play with them every day, and we know how hard they work, so we know that when they actually get that chance to go out there and perform, that we trust them, they trust themselves, so it's always fun.
After winning a close first set, Penn State would take momentum and win out in convincing fashion thanks to some incredible offense.
A great night for the Nittany Lions as they complete the 3-0 sweep against Princeton to end their season. Miller Truby also had himself a night with 15 kills and 3 service aces. They travel for the EIVA tournament for the first time since 2019 coming up.
Coach Pavlik had high praise for Truby's performance and is excited to see what he can do going forward.
One of the things he's been working on is just to try to find that consistent toss and consistent rhythm. And when he finds it, he's going to put 70, 71, 72 miles an hour on people and make it really tough on them.
Penn State has secured the number 3 seed in this year's EIVA tournament and will play number 6 Harvard this Wednesday.
There's nobody in the EIVA that you say, well, we can hold off and not see them until it's bring on all comers.
For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Chris Vadnais.
The men's volleyball regular season wrapped up this past weekend as they hosted the Princeton Tigers. The Nittany Lions enter the postseason at 11-15 overall and 8-4 in the conference. So, Chris, as I mentioned, Penn State hosted Princeton this past weekend, and it was a bit of a roller coaster to say the least. Starting out on Friday, we saw an aggressive performance on both sides of the court, and I was very impressed, specifically by 2 Penn State guys, Gage Gabriel and Matt Luoma. Luoma led the team with 15 kills, and he had a career high of 6 blocks. Gabriel was right up there with him on 6 blocks and contributing 10 kills himself. So you were there for both days, though. On Saturday,
they totally turned things around and they had a sweep against Princeton. So what was the difference between those two matches?
Love the Gage Gabriel mention, big fan of him. But yeah, the first two sets, especially in that Princeton game on Friday, were very high octane. Some of the best volleyball that I've seen from Penn State in a while. It came down to defense, especially right at the net. It came down to who blocked better, and Princeton did that. Although Penn State was hanging in, obviously they split the first two sets 1-1, but Princeton sort of had more gas in the end. But something I wanted to pick out that I thought Penn State did really well was their transition into offense, especially off of serve receive or off of a kill attempt. They just get up to the net. Everyone seems to trust each other really well. It just feels seamless. They have a well-oiled machine. They communicate well, and I really like to see that. But the thing that kind of kills them is service errors and hitting errors. They're swinging right into blocks all the time, especially the shorter hitters on the court. But moving on to Saturday, completely different game. Both teams had a lot of their starters rested just because they're trying to get a little bit more rest for the EIVA tournament. So some more rotational players got some minutes like we saw in the video. And one of the people that I have a big agenda for now is Miller Truby. 6'11", lefty. That's about as genetically gifted as you can get for volleyball. I mean, freak of nature. He was so good. He had 15 kills, 3 service aces. He was serving 72 miles an hour. He hit 300, which is good. But it felt like every time he went up there, it was a guaranteed kill. I loved what I saw out of him, and I wish he gets introduced into the rotation a little bit more. And a couple shout-outs to Owen Rose and Michael Schwob, who are nuisances at the net. They picked up a couple of blocks themselves. They did really good.
And even though Penn State managed to secure the 3rd seed in the upcoming EIVA tournament, they are now not hosting the tournament for the first time in 6 years, which means this team of guys has never traveled. So they will be facing Harvard at Princeton on Wednesday. And to scout Harvard a little bit, they are coming off of a devastating loss against NJIT. They were swept on Saturday. So we'll have to see if that plays into their momentum a bit. But 2 guys that they have that I do not think should be overlooked are Logan Shepard and Owen Fanning. Not only have they had a great performance all season long, but Fanning on Saturday against NJIT, he had a team high of 3 aces, and Shepard had 15 kills. So going into this matchup and the rest of the tournament, what are you expecting?
Yeah. Listen, Penn State has won their last 10 matches against Harvard, and you might think, oh, it's going to be a walk in the park. Harvard has made it difficult for them. I've watched this year, I've watched previous years. They make it difficult every single time, and the score doesn't always reflect that. I think if Penn State plays their game like they always have and does what they do best, they should pull it out. But if they keep making these silly errors, the service errors, the hitting errors, and Harvard could sneak up on them very easily.
All right, and now Penn State is on the road to their 37th EIVA tournament title with the first round starting on Wednesday. Now let's head over to the monitor where Massimo Manfra has the latest on Penn State baseball.
Thanks, guys. Penn State baseball hit a bit of a rough patch last week with losses to USC and Delaware. Last week, though, it seemed to turn around as they got a weekend series win against Purdue. Massimo, can you tell us a little bit more about their wins over Purdue?
Well, this weekend was especially beautiful. As you can see, Easter weekend reversed the weather here in Happy Valley. But this season has been an inconsistent one for Penn State. Going in just over the past week, we saw the USC series, Delaware's weekday matchup, as well as the Purdue series. And Penn State has just had an issue that has plagued them. It's the pitching that has been their major flaw. And over the past week against those teams, we have seen them give up 50 runs. And this is a team with a very explosive offense who's only been able to muster 46. That's a -4 run differential. And especially when you look at this game on Sunday, you see Gasser takes Logan Olson down to right field, and that scores a run on an RBI double. And it just happened again in that 3rd inning. Brandon Anderson also to left field scores another run. And even with those big hits, the offense still managed to show up. 8 unanswered runs after those 3 in that 3rd inning. And after that, the pitching in the Sunday game late against Purdue still fell apart. resulting in the 11-8 loss in the series ender.
Mhm.
But we saw Penn State did manage to take the first 2 games of those series, and things are looking up
Yeah.
despite the inconsistency.
Now, you're talking a lot about inconsistency here for this Penn State baseball team. Can you provide any more specific examples, whether it's out on the field or against teams they've played specifically?
Well, overall, this team is the definition of inconsistent.
Yeah.
I've said it so many times, but specifically at home in Medler Field, they're just 9-9.
Wow.
Just an even 500 on the year so far. And it's a stark contrast when you look and see when they go away, they are vastly successful. They're 13-4 on the road.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit interesting to see the trip up and inconsistency of a Nittany Lions team that has found relative success.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, as they found some of the success on the road, they still have one more Dollar Dog night this Tuesday at home. What do they need to change to kind of see some success at home and then keep rolling before they head out for the last few games?
Well, this season will end the way that their consistency or inconsistency lets them. Dollar Dog night is a notoriously important night for a team that sometimes needs to rebalance itself.
Yeah.
Especially on a Dollar Dog night, the final one of the season. If they win, they will end 4-2 in Dollar Dog nights and have a over 500 record with the hot dogs.
Love it.
All of the fans will be at Medler Field to see not only an over 500 Dollar Dog night record, but also possibly an over 500 home record.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it should be fun to end the baseball season with some dogs, but let's take a look at how Penn State's other diamond team, Penn State softball, is faring.
The Penn State Nittany Lions played the 22nd ranked Ohio State Buckeyes at Beard Field from April 11th through the 13th. After dropping Game 1 9-5, Haley Brunson would get Penn State on the board in Game 2 with this home run. In the third, Megan Ricks would blow the game wide open with a grand slam to put the Nittany Lions up by 5 runs. Penn State would end up run-ruling the Buckeyes 11-2 in 5 innings. It was their first win over a ranked foe in a year. Game 3 started more of the same with Michaela Barbonente hitting a grand slam off the right field foul pole. Ohio State would come back to tie the game at 4 with Reagan Milliken homering to center field as the Buckeyes would take the lead and extend it with Milliken hitting her second of the game. Natalie Lido's 2-run single in the left field in the 7th inning would cut the lead, but Penn State would eventually fall 14-11 to the Buckeyes.
I'm proud of them for fighting tooth and nail a whole series in every pitch of this game.
The Nittany Lions would end up losing to Pittsburgh on Tuesday at Beard Field. Reporting for Penn State Sports Night, I'm Chase Fisher.
Coming off dropping their last home series against Ohio State 2 weeks ago, Penn State went 0-3 against Iowa this past weekend with a loss on Saturday and 2 losses this afternoon. Julia, I'll start with you. Pitching has been a struggle for the Nittany Lions this season. The lack of depth in the rotation has posed some issues. It seems the team and Coach Kroll really rely on Maddie Volpe and Abigail Britton to get the job done, but we've seen that pose some issues. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, certainly the biggest thing is this walk to strikeout ratio. This pitching staff as a whole, all 4 of them, have given up 194 walks and 172 strikeouts. That's a ratio not the way they want them to have it. And the other thing is with this walks, obviously 4 pitches, you're throwing a lot more pitches. Today, all of the pitchers had to be used. Additionally, Giselle Hernandez and Lydia Spalding on top of Maddie Volpe and Abigail Britton. So really just seeing all the pitchers constantly isn't great because it tires out their arm. And also these opposing teams are able to figure them out because they're seeing so many pitches from them. And we've heard Coach Kroll say that, usually the 3rd time through the lineup is when she'll usually switch to a reliever to try and switch things up. But sometimes it just hasn't worked out the greatest for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, and to touch on that, with the overworked arms, I mean, we saw in that Ohio State series, Maddie Volpe had to appear so many times throughout those 3 games. And Ohio State really seemed like every time she kept appearing, Ohio State just kept getting better and better. And against a team that is very good at hitting home runs, very good at getting on base, which is one of Penn State's struggles as a pitching staff, is preventing runners from getting on base, it really did not serve as a good recipe for that entire weekend and really the entire season, if you want to expand things out.
Certainly. And, adding off of that, in softball, we saw Maddie Volpe start the one game and then come back in relief because unlike baseball, those pitchers can come back and pitch again. So that's another thing we've seen happen a couple of times that certainly hasn't helped.
Yeah, with the shorter bullpen, they do opponents get more views of those pitchers, and the Penn State pitching resume has not been as fantastic this season as we saw last year with the Bridget Namath being out. We don't know her status, but none of the pitchers this season have under a 4 ERA. So it's definitely something that they need to work to. But switching over to the offensive side, Penn State has really relied on the bats this year to get them through games that pitching cannot win. But this past series against Iowa, they could not find the offense to save their lives, dropping that series all games, only scoring 2 runs in the first game today and then 1 in the second game and 1 on Saturday. Chase, I'll start with you. How did Penn State switch their approach in the Ohio State series to score more, and what changed for this Iowa series, and how can they get that back?
Well, what they really had to do over that 3-game stretch against Ohio State was really have to rely more on small ball. You saw more bunts, you saw more steals, more hit and runs that Clarissa Crowell's squad really had to. I feel like it was almost like a last resort in a way, because the pitching was just not going to be able to hold against an offense that good like Ohio State's. And of all the stats, really, Penn State's a top 6 offense in the Big Ten. They're really top 6 and all across the stat boards, but they're 6th in steals. So it's not like this is something that's been ineffective that they haven't gone to. It's just been overshadowed by the fact, you have Brooke Clausewitz breaking a lot of records. You have a really good power hitting team. Not a lot of others are really noticing the fact that they can really be gritty and muck a game up.
Definitely. I think adding off of that, the big thing for this Nittany Lion team is their ability to score once they're on the base path. Their ability to steal and be aggressive is something that, they've talked about winning that battle and causing chaos on the base paths and causing that commotion. But kind of the struggle has been, how do they score those runs when they're not able to get those runners on base? And that's another thing that's been talked about, is just these batters love to hit. They love to swing their bats. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's taken them a little bit longer to have that patience at the plate and take an approach to kind of go for more walks to just get on base than kind of swinging for the fences and hitting all those home runs that we know they can.
Yeah, Coach Crowell told us that when they are hitting well, it's because they're more disciplined and looking for those good balls. They're not just swinging at everything that they see. They're really waiting for their pitch, and we didn't really see that as much this past series. But moving forward, we have Penn State is continuing on the road. They are heading to College Park this weekend to face off against Maryland. The Terps are 16-25 overall and 3-13 in conference play. So how can the Nittany Lions use this series as a way to kind of get back close to 500 again and start winning these games going forward into their last series against Washington?
Certainly. I think you need those power hitters to step up. You have 3 players in this lineup that are starters pretty much every day, batting above 350, which is absolutely huge. You have 3 players with over 10 home runs. That's absolutely huge. So they need to step up. And another thing is, looking at that common opponent. When Maryland, they just played Iowa 2 weekends ago, they were outscored 22-3 by the Hawkeyes. Penn State was just outscored 15-4. So both teams outscored by a large margin, but Penn State a little bit less. So hopefully kind of looking at that, looking what they can do, and hopefully giving those pitchers a little bit of rest as they travel from Iowa to Maryland, let their arms recuperate so they'll be strong for this weekend.
Yeah, we talked about the Penn State bats in the previous question. They're going to love going up against this Maryland pitching staff. They're only 15th in team ERA. Penn State's got the worst ERA, so it should be an offensive series, much like the one we saw against Ohio State. So it really should give an opportunity for Maddie Volpe and Abigail Britton to maybe have some better outings as well if they get the run support that they need. And I mean, if they can put it all together, they're on the cusp of just making the Big Ten tournament as it is. But if they can put it all together offensively and defensively, this is one of the better teams in the country. Maybe not top 25 like Ohio State, but they can certainly compete on any day and any stage against anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll just have to see. But they don't have to, the pitchers should get some rest this week because they don't have to worry about a midweek opponent and they can just rest up until the series this weekend. But we will see if Penn State can turn the tides this weekend against Maryland. That's all for our time. Let's turn things over to the Monitor, where Owen Camros and Cora Rodriguez have the latest on women's lacrosse.
Women's lacrosse finished up the regular season with a heart-wrenching overtime loss to Johns Hopkins. But revenge is a dish best served at midfield with a stick in hand. The Nittany Lions will get another look at the Blue Jays in College Park, Maryland on Wednesday. Joined by Cora Rodriguez, who's been covering the team all season. Cora, the Nittany Lions have had a second-half turnaround this year. What's changed?
So that's actually a very interesting question. So what you saw in the beginning of this season is really a 2-7 kind of losing streak there. So you have this side of the board, which is kind of the first half and the second half. Now, you can argue that Oregon was their kind of turning point because that was their first win streak in the 5 that they had. But I really think it's the win against Michigan, who was ranked number 10 at the time. So that was really like the spark that had like them getting their confidence back. So that's just kind of like how their season was going. But also weather wasn't a factor. I mean, you had rain. I know Rutgers is on this side of the board, but Rutgers, it was a torrential downpour. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the stories, but like it was just raining the entire time. And it was like, I was covering the camera with the bag.
Did you save it?
I did save it.
Okay.
I did save it. I do not have the money to buy a new one, but no, it was just weather was such a factor, and especially because Panther Stadium obviously outside. I mean, they could move into Haluba, which they kind of did in the beginning of the season, but that was just kind of a factor the whole time.
And Haluba, it doesn't give them the same element of home field advantage with the fans in the building like it does at Panther.
Yeah, Haluba has like a little bit of bench seating, but there really isn't much.
Yeah, and then who are some players, obviously, that stepped up in the second half of the season that were catalysts of this turnaround?
Yeah, so Sydney Manning and Erica Hove really come to mind for me. For Sydney Manning, I mean, it's just her. She's only a sophomore, and she already has 200 career saves, and she is such a standout goalie for this team. I think that's really what's keeping them together, especially in the beginning of the half. So it's just her dynamically is really just great. I mean, I don't know what else to say about her. She's just a great goalie. And for Erica Ho, yes, she is a senior, but she didn't really play that much last season because of the outstanding players that was last. I mean, Christian O'Neill comes to mind. So she was kind of like their replacement Christian O'Neill for this season.
Understudy, you'd say.
Exactly. So she really stood out this season. I mean, she scored a lot of goals. I mean, there was a career high 5 goals in one game. So yeah, she really stood out. But also, I can argue that the whole team is very standing out. I mean, before media during the USC game, they were saying like, oh, like this class was doing great. So like having that kind of team dynamic of everybody contributing is honestly amazing.
Yeah, and I know obviously when you've played a team once and you get to see them again, you already know kind of what you're going up against. So it's a lot easier to be able to play against a team that you have familiarity with, and you can coach better because you've already seen the team before. Thanks, Cora. Looking forward to seeing how the Big Ten tournament plays out. Now, let's take a look at some of our top plays from the past week.
You're fine. At number 5, it's Maddie Greco fighting through defenders to convert the free position shot for her first goal of the season.
At number 4, it's Bryce Molinaro charging in from third and firing the ball over to first base for the out.
At number 3, it's Owen Rose touching 11 feet to get the block on this Princeton swing.
At number 2, it's Emma Kelly who rounds her defender and fires the ball into the top left corner for the goal.
And at number 1, it's Michaela Barbonette launching the ball to right field for this grand slam against Ohio State. Look at how hyped Coach Crowell is.
With all that, let's take a look forward. Fans will have their last Dollar Dog night of the season this Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. against West Virginia. Big Ten Women's Lax Tournament will kick off as Penn State faces Johns Hopkins Wednesday in Maryland. Meanwhile, men's volleyball hits the road as they begin EIVA tournament action in their first round matchup against Harvard. If they win, they will play Thursday against the winner of the NJIT or Princeton matchup.
Softball will also be in College Park as they take on Maryland on Friday. Following Tuesday's game against West Virginia, baseball will travel coast to coast to take on UCLA. Men's lacrosse will face Johns Hopkins Saturday in the Big Ten Tournament quarterfinals, with the winner playing Northwestern. That game will start at noon. Finally, the blue-white game is this weekend with Beaver Stadium currently under construction. We will see a modified version of the game, but fans will get the first chance to see the team in action since January.
For more content, be sure to follow us on Instagram and X. Plus, be on the lookout for weekly sports updates and game day packages right here on our YouTube. For everyone behind the scenes, the beat reporters, and our producers, for Owen Cameras, I'm Bronwyn Leiber. Have a great night.